What is going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the six-man show. It is July 27th, 2020. Luke, it is storming. It is pouring rain here north of Tampa right now. The skies know the calm before the storm is over. Jonathan Isaac is back. It is over for the rest of the league. Luke, how we doing?
I mean, it's good because it's all good news, Jonathan. We're now entering the week of Orlando Magic regular season basketball again. Jonathan Isaac is going to play in some capacity in the scrimmage the day you guys are hearing this, Monday. We don't know what that'll look like. And somehow, Jonathan, we're at the point where we're clear on J.I.'s return, but we have no clue what Markelle Fultz's return is going to look like. So I don't know. We kind of traded one for the other.
Well, I mean, Markelle, it just seems like ever since we kind of got back to the bubble, we just kind of have had nothing but questions. It's like he wasn't there. It wasn't COVID related, and then he came back and he wasn't, participating in 5-on-5 scrimmages, and now he's kind of back to that point, but it's still not 100% whether or not he's going to participate Monday night. He's had pretty limited 5-on-5 work so far. So, it's just kind of strange. In my opinion, I think it might just be conditioning related. He, by all reports, he was running, miles each day during the quarantine. But especially if you're a high level, like top of the top of the premier athletes in the world, running a couple of miles each day isn't the same as working, with other athletes of that same caliber, running up and down, jumping up and down on an NBA floor. So in my opinion, he looks like during the quarantine, he might have put on some pounds. Now, like Mo Bamba is just, we know, has been pumping the iron, in the iron paradise, whatever you want to call it. Maybe Markelle's been lifting a lot, maybe to try to strengthen up that shoulder, but he definitely, at least in his face, looks a little bit heavier. I don't want to speculate and say why that is, but that's just my opinion. I'm guessing his conditioning needs to catch up.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is if you're running, it doesn't matter if you are kind of resulting to bad eating habits,
right?
Regardless of what Markelle was doing. Again, this is all speculation. We have no idea, but it is possible that, Markelle,
we know he loves some Chick-fil-A.
Markelle, like myself, was just throwing down some Chick-fil-A during the quarantine, and I can't blame him. I am casting no stone that he can do. Nope. He can do whatever he wants when it comes to Chick-fil-A, but he does need to apparently get his conditioning up. But I mean, Jonathan, let's talk about J.I. being back and what that means. And also, I'll go on record and say I want to sincerely apologize from the bottom of my heart to everyone that I shot down when they brought up Jonathan Isaac returning. The pessimist in me and the uncertainty kind of just led to me saying there's no way he's coming back. I don't think he's coming back. He was just in that anti-gravity treadmill not too long ago. Wasn't able to run under his own power from what we could tell. And all of a sudden, he's going to the bubble. Optimism kind of rises because we're thinking, why is he there? Why is he taking up a roster spot if he's not going to play? And next thing we know, we get a notification, the one we've been waiting for so long, since January, that Jonathan Isaac has been cleared and will participate in some capacity in the scrimmage against the Nuggets.
So I have a question. Can we believe anything that Jeff Weltman says, like, from here on out? Because Jeff Weltman was like, no, there's no way that Jonathan's playing. Basically, he's like, he's not going to play. That's basically what we were told. That we're not even a week and a half, 2 weeks from that statement, and Jonathan Isaac's playing in the scrimmage.
I don't know. Maybe it's just kind of him wanting to give us a little gift here, and not he was under promising, over deliver, and that's a great way to look at it, but. I'm happy with this result instead of him saying he's gonna play and then weeks go by and week by week it looks like his play date keeps getting pushed back. So I'm happy with where we're at, Jonathan. Just need to get Markelle back into game shape, and hopefully we see him tomorrow. I mean, there's still a possibility we see Markelle tomorrow.
Right.
I think it would make sense for him to play some limited minutes tomorrow. Or who knows, maybe play even more than J.I. tomorrow too. I wouldn't be surprised if that news is coming next.
Yeah, I think you definitely have to throw him out there just to see where his conditioning really is. I mean, even if it's like a 10, 12-minute run out. Like, barring him, nursing some kind of injury, I really think that we will see him on the floor tomorrow. It's the last opportunity to see him on the floor against other teams, before next Friday when the scrimmages and everything start. So definitely think that we're going to see Markelle in some capacity. You know what I mean? But
did you see the quote that he released? I think it was via The Athletic. I could be wrong, but I think it was Josh Robbins asked him about, how far off is he from being at the level he was the 10 games after the All-Star break. And I've kind of went and just broke it down, his stats after the All-Star break. Really, the biggest jump was in his assists per game. He at those post All-Star break games, he was averaging about 13 points a game, 6.6 assists, shooting an even 50% from the field. We won't talk about his 3-point percentage, but that's not the point.
Not necessary.
We don't need that. So, but his playmaking,
a day of positivity.
His playmaking elevated in those 10 games post All-Star break. And so here's the quote. I'll just read it real quick here. Markelle, when asked about that and his game shape, he says, "I really don't know. I feel really good right now. I actually feel better than I was after the All-Star break. After the All-Star break, my body was kind of tired, was kind of a tired being. So that was my first time that I had played that long. So right now I just actually feel pretty good. I think it's just a matter of getting those reps up in a game, and I don't think I'm far. I think I'm pretty close. I know it's not going to be easy, but I think it's just a matter of a couple of reps."
Yeah, I definitely think, I alluded on the podcast for a few weeks, really before the hiatus. So, even though after the All-Star break the numbers were there, especially when, like, Evan went out with, the elbow injury, at the end of February, beginning of March, whenever that was, everyone's like, okay, like, now Evan is the guy that so many people claim is holding, the young guys back, is holding Markelle back from being able to, like, take the reins of the team. And we're all like, okay, well, now Markelle is going to take the reins. And we saw it in spurts, but not quite, what we wanted to see. We didn't see, the level of energy that we thought Markelle was going to take this next step. And the reason, in my opinion, is he had hit that rookie wall. After playing a total of 33 games over his first, 2.5 seasons, then now playing, I think he played, 65 games maybe? Something like that?
Yep.
64 games, and it's just the most basketball that he's ever played in his entire life. He was hitting that rookie wall, in my opinion.
Yeah, but the encouraging thing is, obviously he played minimal games in Philly, but we have an even larger sample size of what Markelle Fultz is. His numbers are way elevated from when he was in Philly, averaging 4 more points per game than he was ever in Philly. Looks like his assist numbers are up 2. A little over 2 actually. Last year it was 3.1. Rebounds are about the same. 3-point percentage, not great, but about what we expected. And that field goal percentage is really the biggest thing. His efficiency has gone through the roof being in Orlando, shooting 47% from the field where he was shooting 41 in Philly. So you've seen those leaps that he has made, and it was only a matter of time before he hit that wall, because he's just having to grow so quickly, playing so many games, more than he's used to in the NBA. And now we see that kind of the fruits of his labor came into play after the All-Star break. And hopefully, Jonathan, once he's back into game shape, we see more of that coming hopefully tomorrow and then following into the regular season.
Yeah, so I definitely think, I think we will see Markelle once again in that scrimmage. Is he going to be at the same level that he was before? I don't know. That kind of just all based on his conditioning and everything like that. I think one of the travesties of this season is that we have not seen Markelle, Jonathan Isaac, Aaron Gordon, and Markelle Fultz all on the floor at the exact same time. There hasn't been 1 second of that recorded. If you go and look at all the lineup information that we have from NBA stats, they have not shared the floor at all, which in my opinion is just like, okay, if we're going to hold on to Aaron Gordon, like these are the 4 guys that we're looking at for the future of this team. If you want to throw Chuma Okeke in there, I'm fine with that as well. But as far as the guys that we have available that are on the roster right now, at some point I really want to see those 4 thrown out there together just to see what it's going to look like. I mean, you throw out you can throw anybody you want out there with those four. The defensive numbers are just going to be incredible. You talk about the size, the athleticism, the length that you have with Markelle Fultz being 6'3", 6'4" point guard, Jonathan Isaac Mo Bamba basically 7 feet, Aaron Gordon 6'9" or 6'10", whatever you want to call him, would just be ridiculous. So really excited to see that. Excited to see if Markelle can kind of get back to the level that we saw post All-Star break.
What do you think is kind of switching gears back to Jonathan Isaac specifically? What do you think his minutes will look like going into the regular season? Do you think we have to wait and see how much he plays tomorrow, or do you think you can make a guess?
Yeah, okay, so I do think, obviously, it's super dependent on what we see tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think he plays like 15 minutes tops, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we're going to see him kind of plays a game. How does your body respond? How does the knee feel? Is there, some inflammation? What's going on? If he plays 15 minutes, Monday night and is fine, I think that first game maybe we see, 17 or 18 minutes. If he feels okay, maybe the next game we see, maybe 20 minutes, or maybe he doesn't play the next game, just to make sure that they're kind of easing him into everything. By the time the playoffs roll around, I think we see Jonathan playing somewhere 20 to 25 minutes. I just don't know if he's going to be able to go from anti-gravity treadmill and then 6-7 weeks later they're like, oh, he's not going to play, and then all of a sudden he's back to playing 30-35 minutes a night. I just don't see that happening. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it, like we've already alluded to, it's very hard with this front office to know anything. We
can't
don't
trust
know
a word they say anymore.
No,
I love them to death. They have our players' utmost interest in mind. They're doing a great job. But as far as what comes out of their mouth, it means nothing to me from here on out.
Yeah, I mean, and that's probably the way you need to deal with it, at least with the injured players.
Right.
I think that's really the focal point of what you're talking about. And so with J.I., I think we see him play 10 to 15 tomorrow. And then, like you said, see how he responds. I think I'm probably playing it safe here and saying, not getting my hopes up too high, but by saying we're probably at 20 minutes a game, but come playoff time, which, 20 minutes is better than no minutes, and his impact is incredible on the floor for the Magic, and we know that, especially defensively. This year, averaging his 12 points and 7 rebounds and 5 assists, or 2 assists. Sorry, 5. I was looking at defensive rebounds. Jeez, that would be kind of wild if he gets a 5 assists. But who knows what? And he only had played those 32 games this year because he did get hurt on New Year's, and and that's playing 29 minutes. Who knows what 20 minutes a game looks like? Hopefully he's in better shape even than he was. Kind of like Markelle Fultz is saying as well and vocalizing that he feels just as good as he did the post All-Star break. And hopefully J.I. has not only been able to recover but also been able to grow through his rehab process and being on the court in these limited minutes for the 5-on-5 contact stuff.
So I don't think Jonathan Isaac coming back really does much for at least what you and I expected for the regular season. Maybe it gives us another game. I think you and I both had the Magic finishing at 4-4, over the last 8 games of the regular season. Maybe we get to 5-3.
Right.
I don't really think it changes all that much because just you watch Brooklyn. They're awful. They're just absolutely terrible. I still think the Magic are going to end up in the 7th seed. So whether that be the Raptors or whether that be the Celtics, that's going to be the matchup in the first round for us. So as far as it is pertaining to the playoffs, just give us your thoughts on what you think Jonathan Isaac being added back to this active roster, what does that do for the outlook for the Magic come playoff time?
I mean, I think you and I have talked about kind of our viewpoint of the playoffs with or without Jonathan Isaac. Without Jonathan Isaac, you've got guys like AG that can match up against Siakam. But then you get to your bench rotation, and there's not really someone that I trust besides maybe MCW, but he's a little bit on the smaller side, so would have maybe some issues with Pascal. But with J.I., you have so many people you can throw at. If you kind of stagger AG and J.I.'s minutes defensively, especially, you've always got someone on Siakam that can be the X factor. And Siakam is a player that I think the Raptors look at him kind of like we do J.I., where he's young, he's untouchable. Obviously, Pascal's had some more time just because of J.I.'s injury, and we don't really know what his potential could have been. I still think J.I.'s in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation, at least getting votes if he plays the full season. So to see him come in and match up against Siakam when AG is out, or have them both on the floor and being able to switch, that's huge as well. Switch off the screens and switch defensively and it not be an issue. So I think that having J.I., who basically mirrors Pascal, is huge. I think that probably without J.I., I would have probably said the Magic maybe take him to 5 or 6 games. But I think with J.I., man, I think we can take the Raptors to 7.
Me, yeah, without J.I., I was feeling like we were going to have a repeat of last year. Either, swept or you get the gentleman's sweep. If you got to 6 games with the Raptors without J.I., you give Steve Clifford just all the credit in the world. You give our guys all the credit in the world. They would have had to play their butts off. But like you're saying, man, bringing back Jonathan Isaac. What was the biggest problems that we had last year against the Raptors? Number one was Kawhi. Like just by far and away, it was Kawhi. As great of a job as Aaron Gordon did on Kawhi Leonard, he just still went nuts, especially those final 4 games that the Magic lost in a row, right? Outside of that, I think it was Nikola Vucevic just not being able to score on Marc Gasol at all.
Daddy
all-star
Gasol.
player, 20. What's that?
I said Daddy Gasol.
Yeah,
That's what it
Daddy
was.
Gasol. Yeah, just going from 21, points a game, 10 rebounds to just. I think his high score in that series was like 18 points. The other games he might have been held to single digits. I really wouldn't be surprised. But now you take away Kawhi Leonard. That's just such a big problem. Siakam, Jonathan Isaac, and Aaron Gordon did a decent job on Siakam last year, I felt, but he still had a really good series. Now, you take away Kawhi Leonard, Jonathan Isaac, in my opinion, has gone up a level defensively. If you're switching Aaron Gordon and Jonathan Isaac to give Siakam different looks over the course of that game, I really like our chances. What was another huge problem last year against the Raptors? The fact that they have Kyle Lowry, Siakam, Kawhi Leonard, Norman Powell, Fred VanVleet, all these guys that can create their own shots if need be, and the Magic really were just lacking that. So now Markelle Fultz, if he's able to play well, Markelle and Jonathan for me are going to be the X factors in a first-round series against the Celtics or against the Raptors. If those guys play well, so we're talking about Siakam. Let's look at the Celtics. If we're looking at like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Gordon Hayward, if Aaron Gordon and Jonathan Isaac can do anything to just try to contain those guys even a little bit, and if Markelle Fultz has a good series, I like our chances of potentially going to 6 or 7 with either of those two teams. More so the Raptors, I feel like it's just a better matchup for us. It almost feels like the Celtics just have like too many guys, especially if Kemba gets healthy, if Gordon Hayward is playing well, they just have too many guys, right? Where I feel like if you can slow down Siakam and if we can get good minutes out of Markelle Fultz, it just feels like we're going to have a fighting chance in any of those games. Do I think we're going to win the first round? I really don't. But I think if Jonathan can give you 20 to 25 minutes of elite defense, Markelle Fultz can play well, those two guys, obviously a lot is going to have to go right. Everybody's going to have to play well for us to be competitive in those games and to be competitive in that series. But if we kind of get that perfect storm, I do think we have a legitimate chance to push one of those two teams to 6 or 7 games.
Yeah, and if you look at the Raptors, obviously talking about a lot about Siakam because he is the guy that's getting it done for them this year, is last year he averaged 22, I think almost 23 against Orlando in those 5 games. And he was only averaging, I say only, but he was averaging about 17 a game in their regular season. So the Magic, can you imagine what Pascal will do in the playoffs if we didn't have Jonathan Isaac when there's no Kawhi on the floor and it's just Pascal saying I've got to score, I've got to get buckets.
We're talking 25-27 easy a night.
Yeah, easy. And so you have J.I. and like I said, you've got guys like Aaron Gordon and J.I. that can defend him. And then Markelle Fultz. We briefly touched on that, but Markelle did not play last year against the Raptors, obviously. So I remember last year in the playoffs thinking, man, what if we had Markelle with a whole season under his belt going up against the Raptors? Well, it looks like we're going to get to see that finally and see Markelle Fultz against the Raptors matched up against Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, who I once again, if you guys haven't been listening to the podcast for any length of time, I cannot stand Kyle Lowry. So if Markelle is able to just come out and, I'm not saying he's going to shut Lowry down, but, be able to give him some buckets on the other end, that'll just be the cherry on top of the sundae. But, yeah, man, I'm right there with you. Markelle Fultz, Jonathan Isaac, obviously everybody knows if this team is going to be successful, and make deep playoff runs into the future, those are going to be the two guys right now that are going to bring us there. So I'm just, now that Jonathan's back, we've got Markelle. He's going to play at some point. We don't know when. But I cannot even express how excited I am for the Magic to get back to playing games that matter and, more importantly, get to the playoffs. I think the 7th seed is locked down, so I'm not too worried. I'm not thinking too much about the regular season, but I'm really looking forward to the playoffs. We've said from last year, losing Game 5, we said, okay, if the Magic, they had two directions. Let the vets walk and let's just build around the young guys, or let's try to run it back. Bringing back Vooch, bringing back Terrence Ross, this was saying, okay, we're running it back. So from day one, when that happened last year, when we signed those guys back, we said, okay, if we don't get to the playoffs again, this season is a failure. If we don't get to 6 or 7 games in the first round, this season is a failure. So now Jonathan's back. I feel like that's a real potential possibility again. If Markelle Fultz can just take the leap, if this guy just went into quarantine and has been working on that shoulder and he feels like, okay, I'm healthy, it's time to turn it on. And if we can start getting let's say a line 15 points a game, 4 rebounds, 6 assists out of Markelle, and he's shooting close to 50% from the field,
forget about it.
You're going to need me to check into a hospital somewhere because it's going to get real.
And they're going to have to make sure our hospital beds are right next to each other because I'm going to be right there.
Exactly.
And we're going to need TV. So,
yes.
I mean, it's really exciting. I hope and think that we will get that matchup with the Raptors first round. Obviously, it does depend on kind of how the East shakes out. The Celtics right now are 3 games behind the Raptors. So who knows what's going to end up happening. I think we both projected the Raptors would hold on to that 2nd seed. And I think that'd be a lot of fun for us and the listeners, for us to, leading up to that playoff series, to really dive into last year's playoff series and watch back some of those games.
Just run it back.
Just get our takeaways, because we do have Markelle Fultz and getting to see kind of the progression that J.I. has made since last year. Hopefully he looks good come this week, as good as you can be after being out since January. But, I think it would be cool if we kind of deep dove into that, if we do play the Raptors into last year's series, and just kind of see what we think and how different it'll be this year for us given the circumstances.
And people listening to this, I'm sure there are people that are going to be like, you guys are crazy. We don't stand a chance against either one of those teams. You guys are being homers, whatever. Yeah, there's probably a little bit of that in there. But if you look back at that series last year, games 1, 3, 4, we legitimately gave the Raptors problems. We won game 1.
Specifically
games
1 and
4,
3, but yeah.
Yeah, games 3 and 4, the Magic had legitimate chances to get back into those games and win those games. Obviously didn't come to fruition outside of DJ Augustine's shot, but this is a team that is going to be familiar with most of what the Raptors are going to be looking to do and wanting to do. Now, you can say the same thing about the Raptors and the Magic, but I really don't think it's crazy to think that the Raptors are probably, if you had to pick of that upper echelon of the Eastern Conference, I think the Raptors are the team that the Magic would want.
Yeah, and I mean, you're going to see a head coaching battle for sure when it comes to that, because Nick Nurse is so good at adjustments on the fly, and it's just one of the definitely up and coming and already established, obviously winning the finals last year.
Yeah, he's
but
one of the best coaches in the league.
One of the best
absolutely.
coaches in the league, and so that's going to be interesting to see how, if Cliff has grown. when it comes to that. Last year, we were singing Cliff's praises, taking virtually the same roster that we had the year before and making the playoffs and ending that multiple-year drought. It'll be interesting to see if we're singing his praises again come postseason time. I know this year, we praised him last year, and this year he's taken a little bit more heat for rotations. I know, Jonathan,
deservedly so.
You've been on that as well.
Let's be real. Like Michael Carter-Williams and Markelle Fultz should just never be on the floor together, and I will die on that hill. Yeah.
No, I mean I can't disagree with you, but I'm interested to see come the playoffs are a completely different animal. You've got adjustments. In the NBA, it's you play a different team basically every game, but you don't really play a team back to back very often, at least. And so you don't get those game by game adjustments. Come playoffs, you play the same team for at least 4 games in a row. So getting those adjustments and seeing what Cliff can do, and it's always fun to see Nick Nurse coach. And I had a lot of fun seeing his adjustments last year, even though I hated them because they typically were pretty effective. But
all he does is complain, dude. Every 5 seconds.
He is a complainer. He and Kyle Lowry are cut out of the same mold.
Dude, crybaby crew right there. 100%.
Yeah. So I think that series would be incredible, especially for Magic fans, just to see where we measure up. We may not win the series. We probably won't. But I think if we can push them to 6 or 7, and like I said, I think we can take them to 7. And that is with the caveat that J.I. is at least playing 20 minutes a game. If he's not, then chalk it up. I don't at that point. But
well, let's not take this for granted. We went so long with the Magic being just completely terrible and being out of the playoffs. The fact that the playoffs are right around the corner and we're still playing meaningful games and we're going to be in the playoffs is just awesome to think about. So can't wait for that. But so we've talked enough about Jonathan Isaac and the Magic and the potential matchup with the Raptors. Luke, let's talk a little bit about these scrimmages. So Magic, starting off, what was that, last Wednesday against the Clippers, and then yesterday, this past Saturday, against the Los Angeles Lakers. So we don't need to go too much of a deep dive into this, Luke. It's a scrimmage. Basically, the point of a scrimmage is to see where do you stack up against these other teams. What do you need to work on, right?
We'll leave it at this, Jonathan. Our 3-point shooting is the best in the league. It is our strong.
Day.
It is our strong point, and I think that's what I took out of it. So
I thought we were going to take this seriously, and you're just making jokes. No, yeah, it's okay. To summarize what Luke is saying, okay, without going too much into detail on these games, because like we said, they're scrimmages. The Magic are shooting 17.9% from 3 right now. I know we're not great, but that's atrocious, right?
Yep.
And you can't chalk it up to being rusty. Game against the Clippers shot 39% from 3. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday against the Lakers shot 45% from 3. So other teams are shooting the lights out, and we can't make anything. So it's scrimmages. I'm really not all that worried about it, Luke. But my major takeaway from these scrimmages is the fact that no matter what's going on with this team, no matter who's playing, no matter how we're shooting the ball, even when you're so frustrated at this team and you're like, I just want to shut this game off, they always find a way at some point in the game to come back and make it a game again. They can be getting blown out, and then at some point in that second half, you're like, oh, what's happening here? And then they lost it like they do a lot of the times. But both of these games, went down, pretty significantly in the first half, against the Clippers. Brought it back in the third quarter, made it a game, just couldn't knock down enough shots, in the final quarters there. We're talking about guys, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, especially in that first half, knocking shots down. Lou Williams, looking at you, Lou Williams, and you know why. Mr. Magic City Chicken Wings over there. He's going for the food, right?
Yeah, that's what they all say.
Yeah, exactly. And
Lou
I go to church. I go to church for the music. I love worship, but that's not why you go to church. Anyways, but just Lou Williams. Just I'm trying to give the guy the benefit of the doubt, but does not look good. You leave the bubble to go to your grandfather's funeral, and you end up at a gentleman's establishment.
Granted, I'm just glad he went to the funeral. in general, because it'd been a really bad look if it was one of those things where it's like,
Oh yeah.
oh, my grandmother passed away, so I can't make it to school. Sorry. And then you know 10 months later, your grandmother passes away again. It's the same
Right.
one. So at least he went to the funeral.
And then he's throwing
But-
singles, whatever.
But then
Him and Jack
he's
Harlow.
doing his thing. And I mean, like I said, we shouldn't be too surprised with his multiple girlfriends that he's documented having. But that's Lou Will,
Yeah.
man, and that's I can't say I'm too surprised. So and Jay, we were talking about this, Jonathan, earlier before the season had gotten kind of underway there at the bubble, talking about will the players break the rules. The answer I had was definitely yes, and you kind of gave him a little bit of benefit of the doubt.
I try every single time, Luke, and they just make me look like an idiot.
Then they go eat chicken wings.
Then
So-
they're crossing campus lines to pick up Uber. They're doing all sorts of things.
Yeah, I
They're,
think
they're DMing ladies on IG.
yeah, they're
Inviting them to the bubble.
and
hey.
I think they're reworking some of these quarantine rules and all that stuff. They're kind of reevaluating everything because Lou Will threw him a little bit of a curveball. I think Shams came out and reported they're reworking some things and guidelines and what that will look like quarantining by themselves and blah blah blah. I think Lou Will is coming back for and will quarantine for, I think it's single-digit days. I want to say 8 is what they reported today. So kind of interesting. Me and you we were all on board for bring down the hammer, just ban him, get him out of here.
And now, like I said, I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, so we don't have all of the facts. We have a couple of social media posts which seem to implicate Lou Williams at a gentleman's establishment.
We have photo evidence, Jonathan. It's over. It's a wrap.
I'm just saying, I'm the kind of guy, I like to give people the benefit of the
What,
doubt.
you want
I
to talk
like
to him?
hear,
You want to talk to him and ask him?
Listen,
Lou Will,
Adam
come on the
Silver-
show. Come on the
Adam
show.
Silver is the best commissioner in sports, I believe. He's going to do his due diligence. He's going to conduct an investigation. He's going to get all the facts, and
the
he
pictures?
will come to a decision. Okay? So we're going to leave this in Adam Silver's hands.
Yeah.
If
like
the evidence
everything
is
else.
conclusive that Lou Williams was just trying to get
was
jiggy
eating
with
chicken wings.
it, if Lou Williams was just out here trying to get jiggy
It was
with
just dinner, Jonathan.
he needs to be banned.
It was
But
dinner and a show.
do we know the funeral wasn't at the gentleman's establishment? That's how I feel.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see.
It's all a little suspect, but
Lou Williams was giving us buckets, and then he went to go get a chicken bucket. That's what it comes down to. So, anyways, things did not go well.
So
against
glad
the
basketball
Lakers.
is back. Yeah, no, didn't go great. Close the gap there at the end. So that was good for what it's worth. Take it with a grain of salt because rotations are all messed
40-point
up.
third quarter for the Magic. When I saw, because admittedly, I was outside with my family on Saturday trying to watch the game from my phone because I make it a point not to miss Magic games. But being as this was a scrimmage, I was like, do I need to leave my family right now to go home and watch this on my TV? Probably not the best move, right? So I'm trying to watch the game on my TV. Phone overheated. iPhone won't let you do anything once it gets hot like that. So I was following along with the game, from social media. Magic could not knock down a bucket, but then come back in the third quarter, take the lead at some point, and then just couldn't hold on to the lead and the Magic win.
Can we
The
talk
Lakers
about
win.
real quick in that game? J.R. Smith back here for like 2 scrimmage games, and he's already injuring our players.
I told you, he saw Wes going up and was like, that's the guy that was trying to smash my car, and just try to take Wes Iwundu straight out of the air.
For those of you that don't know, during quarantine, J.R. Smith had a run-in with some guy that decided he would try to bash windows on J.R. Smith's car, and J.R. Smith gave him the business. So that's what Jonathan's referring to. Yeah, and I don't, we can touch on that real quick. Wes Iwundu and kind of what that means for the rotation. Wes is a guy that probably, I think he gives us like 5 points a game, but is playing decent minutes this year and last year, about 18, 19 minutes a game, I think. So I think what that'll look like is just kind of, getting guys like Melvin Frazier, Vic Law, and B.J. Johnson some more run while he is out. Hopefully,
it hasn't really been confirmed that he's out yet, but he's got a laceration. It's like why,
he's in concussion protocol. So
well, there we go.
we don't know exactly what it'll look like in his timetable, which is why it's good that they did have these scrimmages. So guys like B.J. Johnson, Gary Clark, and Melvin Frazier, Vic Law, those guys could get some run and kind of see what it's going to be like playing in those empty arenas that are so different from what they're used to playing in. So it's good that they got that run. Please, let's up our 3-point shooting percentage. That goes for the whole team, guys. But especially now with Wes Iwundu being out for who knows how many games. Hopefully not that many. Hopefully he clears pretty quickly and retakes his concussion test and passes it. But that's just kind of what it's going to look like. I think who was it? Orlando Magic Daily, I think it was Philip Rossman Wright, kind of went into what that's going to look like ideally for the Magic with Wes being out. And one of the points he did make was the Magic are going to go deeper in the bench. They're not going to kind of expand minutes for wing players for the Magic. So that's his take on it. I find myself agreeing with that. G League players and two-way guys and all of them, they're not NBA necessarily caliber, at least obviously starter caliber. But there are some people kind of that made me a little irritated, kind of just bashing those G League guys, saying they don't look like they're really up to speed with the NBA competition and all of that. And, yeah, sure, to an extent, because they are G Leaguers, but, I mean, cut them some slack. They haven't played on a court in so long. The whole team hustled really well, and I got that from our scrimmages. But shooting the ball, it's going to take a little bit of time to get back in rhythm, and that especially extends out to those G League guys. And I think that we'll see better results from them and the rest of the team this coming week.
Well, I mean, you look at the Magic just at that game. 40 points in the third quarter. So like the potential for the offensive outbursts are still there. Like most of that I know was led by DJ Augustine, who at times it's still going to tote that thing. DJ can just pop off sometimes like that, as we saw game 1 of the playoffs last year. But, yeah, everybody just needs to shoot the ball well. I mean, looking at Evan Fournier right now, shot 1 of 4 against the Lakers, was, I believe, 0 of 4 from 3 against the Clippers. So right now he's shooting 1 for 8. Terrence Ross was 0 for 6 against the Lakers. He was 2 of 6 against the Clippers. So right now he's 2 of 12 from 3. So those are the guys that, as in the normal flow of a game, take the majority of the 3-point attempts for the Magic. So when those guys, are shooting, 1 of 8 and 2 of 12, it's just not going to go well. So everybody needs to start shooting better, but especially and specifically our shooters. Now, I caught some crap on Twitter and from you as well for kind of shouting out Michael Carter-Williams for, hey, watch your mouth. But, giving Michael Carter-Williams, a little pat on the back just because no matter what's going on in the course of a game, the guy's just always playing his butt off. Didn't have the most efficient, game against the Lakers. Ended up with 15 points on 4 of 15 shooting, but 7 of 7 from the line, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. Just Michael Carter-Williams is just kind of putting everything together. But I say all that to say this. Michael Carter-Williams shooting 0 of 5 from 3 in a scrimmage. I understand that it's a scrimmage. At some point, though, he needs to realize that if those shots are not going in, he doesn't need to be taking them. I don't care how hard you were working during quarantine. At the same time, Cliff needs to learn to rein these guys in a little bit. He said on a few occasions that he doesn't like coaching decisions. However, a non-shooter shooting the ball is basically a turnover. So he does need to learn, in my opinion, to coach decisions somewhat because Michael Carter-Williams taking 5 threes, I'm sorry, is just not going to get it done.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I love my favorite memory so far of Michael Carter-Williams is him with the bloody nose, all gauzed up,
the ref.
Just running after the ref, getting hype for big shots in that series. But on the flip side, it is a little frustrating seeing MCW kind of chuck up some shots, more often than not. But don't get me wrong, I love his hustle. I think that probably outweighs, the decisions he makes shooting wise. And played some good games for us last year. Can't forget kind of what his journey has looked like, going from Rookie of the Year to fighting for a roster spot. It's no wonder this guy plays with that much effort, because he's literally playing for his career every game, and I don't think he takes it for granted. Last year in the playoffs was a good lift for us, off the bench and playing about 18 minutes a game, averaging almost 7 a game, points per game, 4 rebounds, and 2.5 assists. So, MCW does do a lot for the team. It's just kind of those little tweaks that the Magic need to make. And that's why I'm glad there is these scrimmages and the regular season game. I don't know if you saw it, Jonathan. I think it was Josh Robbins that reported that that Vogel and Clifford kind of had matched up notes for their scrimmage. They probably realized, we're not playing each other in the regular season. Unless we meet in the NBA Finals, we're not going to play each other at all.
Right.
So let's exchange some notes. We'll, when you want to work on this with the guys, we'll throw out this set. The majority said they were gonna play zone for most of the game, at least to start the game, to give them some different looks and ways to prepare. So that is the plus side, and the upside of the scrimmages is just kind of knocking the rust off for the guys, but as well practicing those sets and what that looks like come game time, for game flow and just all those sets that they will be using throughout the regular season and then come playoff time. So I think that the scrimmages are highly valuable in that way. Even though we may not see it, we might say it's just a scrimmage. For Cliff, that is a highly competitive practice. That he gets to get all of his starters and any guys that he wants on the court to kind of work through those sets against a team of the caliber of the Lakers. I mean, you got guys out there that just are studs for the Lakers. So getting some run against them and the Clippers and the Nuggets, I mean, that's a lot of run against some really talented teams that I think might be a big difference going into this regular season, especially with the much awaited matchup against the Nets to start it.
Yeah, I really think, in my opinion, these scrimmages, we can say that they don't matter or whatever, but I think they're really invaluable, like you're saying, just to see where we stack up against these other teams. And really the most important thing that I think you take from these scrimmages is, what do we need to work on as a team? What do we need to improve on, right? Mm-hmm. That it's like I said, it's just invaluable to see where the team is, currently. As we go into this final scrimmage and then into the regular season. So that's kind of where I want to take us next, Luke, is really just to talk about the Nuggets, pretty briefly here. Just some of the updates, with their team, the way that they're looking and just what we should expect from this third scrimmage. So I think everybody listening right now kind of has a feeling of where, we're going to move with this. Luke, Bol. A lot of people wanted the Magic to trade up, into the second round to try to take Bol. Yep. And now, we're seeing why, right? I think it was 16 points, 10 rebounds in that first game, 15 points in the second scrimmage now. Just doing things that, like, we can talk about Kristaps Porzingis, being the unicorn and stuff like that, but just he's a guy that is over 7 foot and he literally moves like a guard. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it in my life. Do I think he's the real deal? I'm kind of reserving.
It's a scrimmage.
It's a scrimmage. I'm reserving that kind of conclusion. Can he even stay healthy? I don't know. One season in Oregon, wasn't able to stay healthy. Guys who are just that big, that lengthy, and lanky with feet that big, I just don't know what his long-term health and durability is going to look like. All of that being said, he's just doing things that I've never seen a person that size being able to do.
Yeah, and it's hard not to see Bol and think of Manute Bol as well, who we saw the blocks. I mean, Manute Bol had that crazy stat line where it was 4 points, 4 rebounds, 15 blocks. Bol in this scrimmage, 16 points, 10 rebounds, 6 blocks. So I think it'll be interesting to kind of see any parallels in terms of that, just because they both are long, lanky, and can just alter your shot, if not just smack it into the stands, into the wall, I guess in this case. But it'll be interesting to see. I saw some people calling that Denver Nuggets lineup the slow time Nuggets.
Oh my gosh.
They they do play slow. They don't shoot as many shots as you would with the fast lineup, obviously. And there's going to be some adjustments if they roll that out. I obviously have no idea if they're going to roll that lineup out in the regular season. but it wouldn't be outlandish to think that they might, especially since they're trying to test it out in the scrimmages. But I mean, Nuggets, one of those top teams in the West that going against them tomorrow is going to be a lot of fun. Whether you're a Magic fan or a Nuggets fan, obviously for the Nuggets, you get to see these guys play day in and day out, and I think you're excited as a Nuggets fan. And as a Magic fan, it's exciting to go against them. Of course, we're gonna have Weltman and Hammond just salivating over the length of the Nuggets tomorrow, but it'll be fun to see how we stack up against them and see how that game goes and see Bol in action, because that is a young prospect that looks to have a promising future.
And then we see skinny Jokic. Like Jokic, I don't know how much weight he's lost, but he's another guy who just seems to be moving, a lot better with, shredding the extra weight. That's been, kind of one of the knocks on him, his first few years in the league is just that, he was heavy. He definitely could have gotten into a little bit better weight. He could up his conditioning. It looks like he has done that. So Jokic is one of my favorite players to watch in the league.
He shredded 25 pounds, by the way.
Yeah, I was probably going to say somewhere between 20 and 30 pounds.
He shredded his weight, and he gifted it to Mo Bamba and muscle. So
yeah, they just traded.
They switched.
You guys remember when we were all kids playing Pokemon? You had your Game Boy Color, and I would plug my cord into your cord, and we would go to the Pokemon little center, and we would trade Pokemon. That's what Mo Bamba and Jokic did with their weight.
They went to the Pokemon Center, and they said,
Here.
I can shed this weight, and it'll turn into muscle for you.
Right.
So.
Well, there's still a lot of people out there that are skeptical that it's muscle, but even Mo Bamba, I'm glad that we kind of circled back to that. Mo Bamba in these first two scrimmages with the extra weight, he's definitely using it really, really well. He's being able to be more physical with players on the block on the offensive as well as the defensive side. And the major concern with me is how is he going to carry that weight? Is he still going to be able to move around pretty well? And in my opinion, he's moving around just as well as he was before. A guy putting on 20 pounds, that can definitely be a concern, especially a guy as big, as lengthy as Mo Bamba relies a lot on his athleticism to get up and just challenge shots to a ridiculous degree, but seems like he's still able to move around pretty well with the added weight.
Yeah, I mean, he's still, conditioning and getting to that point, learning kind of, it's the same thing as, that awkward growth spurt that you had in, from elementary to middle school to high school, kind of learning how you operate. And that's the same thing that Mo Bamba is going to have to continue to learn is what does this look like now? Does his game evolve and change now that he has put on that weight? We talk about him kind of just looking stronger down low on the block, boxing out and things like that. That weight helps in so many different facets. And, we're seeing the Magic are going to obviously be very conservative with his minutes and kind of how much they push him. So that is the one thing I'm a little bit worried about going into this regular season. There is a lot of plates kind of being juggled when it comes to these players and their minute restrictions and rotations. And I just hope by, hopefully at least halfway through the regular season, they kind of are getting their rotations better figured out as guys get conditioned. Guys like Mo Bamba are continuing to kind of learn what that weight feels like and how to play, and then also conditioning on top of it. I mean, there's a lot going on with this Magic team right now that needs to be pinned down by the time we get to the playoffs.
And that weight, you can't really understate that. It's just that it literally hits different. I remember, shortly after high school, I kind of stopped playing basketball for a little bit, started lifting weights, probably put on about 15 to 20 pounds of muscle over the course of, I don't know, maybe a year. And then when I got back to playing basketball, that Euro step, you drop that shoulder into somebody, let me tell you, it for sure hits different. So, but yeah. So many things that are still kind of up in the air. When we talk about Jonathan, we talk about Markelle Fultz, we talk about a few of the things that the Magic need to work on, into this last scrimmage and getting into the regular season. But definitely going to be a lot, to look forward to. And man, I'm just excited to get back to basketball and excited to get into the playoffs, Luke.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Fun scrimmage Monday night against the Denver Nuggets. And, the next time that the listeners hear a podcast, it'll be me and you talking about real regular season Magic basketball, hopefully about how, they dominated the Nets and had their way with them. I hope that's how the episode goes. I really don't want to hop on here and talk about an L to restart the season.
That would be pretty bad, actually. That, this was a little bit of a test run. I think it, went pretty well, so, we definitely need a W. and that will be a much more enjoyable conversation to have for sure.
Yep, we'll learn a lot about the team here in the next coming week, and excited to kind of get down to it.
Absolutely. Anything else, Luke?
I think we are good here.
I think we're good as well. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to the Six Man Show. For Luke, this has been Jonathan. Next time you guys hear us, we'll be wrapping up, recapping that game against the Brooklyn Nets coming up on Friday. So clear your calendars. Do whatever you got to do. The Orlando Magic are back this Friday. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will catch you guys next time. See you.